verbal confession. That's the mitzvah say. The mitzvah say is vidu, but vidu without tshuva is not vidu. It means nothing, just lip service. You could. It doesn't atone. You'll be classified as a tzaddik, but you're not going to have kapara. It's two different things. You won't be cleansed, but your classification will be tzaddik. That's the word kiddushin. Correct. Because maybe it's during the tshuva in his heart. In his heart, right. No, tshuva. It's Hashem should accept it. Tefillah is Hashem should accept it. Look, if you think that, it's also good. But minimally, you have to think, Hashem should. You pray Hashem should accept your tshuva. It's like the Kohen Gadol said. We go through that voting in Kippur. So he reads just a short amount, and he reads it by heart. Certain things he says, and there's a lot more to talk about than what I've said. There's a lot more than what I've said. I'm saying whatever we're discussing, there's a lot more to talk about. Yeah, okay. We left off on Ayin Ches. Just like to get back. It was second line on Ayin Ches Ben Aleph. Review the Kohen Gadol Balmona. A Kohen Gadol cohabits with a widow. It's not permitted to him. Lokishtayim. He gets two sets of malchus. Achas mishum lo yikav. It's not permitted to take an almona. V'achas mishum lo yichalel. Because he's defiling the woman. Lo yichalel. So the Gemara asks, Loki nam mishum yichalel zaro. Why is he should get a third set of malchus? He's what? He's desecrating his seed because the child's not going to be a Kohen. Shlogoma biyoso. He did not complete the biyah. Okay, he withdrew. Now, we'd mentioned yesterday that haro. There's an argument. There's machlokas. Tanoim. What is haro? It says kihera makor domer. Torah speaks if a man commits incest with his sister. It says he's liable for kores because kihera makor domer. That's what the Torah says. Because he entered into her. This question is, as mentioned, partial penetration, just touching. But once that happens, it's considered an act of biyah. It's considered an act of adultery. It's considered an act of incest. The woman's considered defiled. If she's, let's say, a woman has relations with a goy or with a mamzer, she's considered defiled woman. She becomes a zona. Okay? Now, so over here it says that in terms of Yichalel, she became a chalola, right? Because he did an act that's considered he did an act of cohabitation, even though is logoma biyosa. But l'chal zaro, that's only if it's able to have a child. But since he never completed it, he's not a vayelech l'chal zaro. So there's a famous machlokas b'sham de'silel. It's mentioned in a number of locations. It's a Mishnah. It's a Mishnah at the beginning of Chagiga. If you have a Canaanite slave, Canaanite, now how do you emancipate him? Give him a get shichur. The master gives him a writ of emancipation. What happens if he has a slave that is owned by two masters? And one master emancipates him, the other master doesn't emancipate him. So he's classified as Chatzi Evet Chatzi Ben Chorin. He's a half slave. Half of him is a full Kanani, and half of him is a full Jew. I'm speaking in the name of Rabbi Yehuda Anossi right now. Okay? Wait a second. So the Gemara says, so Beisila says that what do you do? One day he works for himself because you have to divide his financial ownership. So the half of him that's fully free, he's the equivalent of the other master. So when you have both masters, how did they divide up? How did they divvy up the pie? They would divide one day is your day, one day is my day financially. So Beisila says, one day he works for himself, the other day he works for the master. Because the master owns 50% of it. So Beishamai says, no. You've only addressed the financial aspect of it. What about his obligation of procreation? Lisa Shivcheni Yohol. can't marry a Canaanite woman because half of him is a full Jew, and a full Jew is not permitted in a Canaanite woman. And Lisa Eved lo yochol, so the Eved is not permitted to marry a regular, ordinary Jewess, and he can't marry a Shivcha Canaanis because half of him is a full Jew. So what do? Ela kofinis rabo, you compel the master to free him, and he gives him a note to reimburse him for what he was forced to relinquish. And it says that's one of the cases. Beis Hillel retracted his decision, and they concur with Beis Shammai that you force the master to release his half, and he becomes a full Jew, a full free man. That's the Mishnah. Okay. So Tosa asks a question in a number of locations. Why don't we say Esi Docholos Aseh? Let the Aseh of Pru Ravu supersede the Los Aseh of Losi Kadesha. If a man, a regular Jew, cohabits with a Shukran, it's a Los Aseh. Say Aseh Docholos Aseh. The Aseh Pru Ravu. He has an obligation to procreate. So, and when he engages with her, he's in violation of Los Aseh. It says Losei Kadesha. So we say Aseh Docholos Aseh. Correct? That's the question. What? With the woman. Oh, wait. Good. But that's Tosa's question. So one answer Tosa's gives, because the obligation of procreation is only on the man. The woman has no obligation to procreate. So if there's a negative command being violated, we don't differentiate between the man and the woman. So he may be fulfilling his mitzvah of the asay, but she has no asay. So she's going to be in violation. Therefore, there's no woman available to him. Therefore, we compel the master to emancipate the slave. Right? Right, but in this context, in here, it's not possible to say asay docholos asay. No, it's ongoing. No, it's ongoing. Wait. Good. Wait. So let's talk a little bit. So there's a question they ask. It says that if a man's brother was a mamzer, and he was married to a mamzeres, which he was permitted to be married, and he himself is a legitimate Jew, his brother, the mamzer, dies, says the sister-in-law falls to Yibum. On a Torah level, he's permitted to perform Yibum. Asay docholos asay. The asay of Yibum supersedes the lav of lo yavam mamzer b'kal Hashem. Wait, correct? But that's only the first time. We're talking about it on a Torah level. Rabbinically, because one is the mitzvah of Yibum, it's only the first act of cohabitation. Wait, the mitzvah of Puravu is ongoing, as I'll explain in a moment. So therefore, we say we don't allow the first time because there may be a second time. Nazrin bi rishon ought to be a shniyos. He gives a chalitza, fine. This thing is not working. Dead. Battery. Where's Ephraim? Ephraim, where is it? Out of commission. Wait a second. You know, there's an expression, you don't tanz on tzvei chasnas. Okay? So the question is, that's exactly where I'm going. So there's a famous question. The obligation of the Yibum is on who? He has to perpetuate the name of the deceased. What about the widow? What do we say? We say, say, but the fact is, if a mamzeres engages with a legitimate Jew, she's also in violation of Allah. So for him, we say, say. But for her, she has no mitzvah say. That's the question the Rashba asks. Okay, so it should be no different than the other situation, as we're saying. So he differentiates. A woman has no obligation of procreation. The obligation of procreation is only a man. Right? So do you have to procreate with this woman? Go find another woman to procreate. Yibum can only be fulfilled with the widow of the deceased. So therefore, she has a Torah obligation to avail herself for Yibum. So just as he has an obligation to do Yibum, she has a Torah obligation to avail herself that Yibum should be able to be performed with her. So she also has a mitzvah say. When it comes to procreation, it's your obligation. You say, well, I have an obligation. That's your problem. That has no relevance to the woman. So therefore, we can't justify the act because that's your personal obligation. It's unrelated to this particular woman. We speak of a yibum, it can only be done with this woman. Because the perpetuation is only with the widow of the deceased. Therefore, it's her obligation to avail herself to perform yibum with the surviving brother. Wait, that's the Rashba's answer. What? Okay, wait. You build a building, the structure, you start from the foundation work up. This is the window dressing, which you're asking me now. We'll get to the window dressing, whether it's appropriate or not appropriate. Okay? But this is the Rashba's answer. Wait, good. No. It's the act. Wait, well, we're talking about whatever. No, Tosis Yavama speaks. What about she's a woman past menopause? Is the mitzvah yibum? There's still a mitzvah yibum. Still mitzvah yibum. Because the act itself is called an act of procreation. It's an act of procreation. Whether there's conception, not conception is irrelevant. I understand that. But Tosas discusses this. I'm explaining to you. No, it doesn't make a difference. It's the act of yibum. I'll give you an example. There's a famous question which is asked. All these things. What is the mitzvah pirivriga? What's the mitzvah pruruvu? What is the mitzvah? The Gemara says in a number of locations that if a woman's a virgin, the first act of cohabitation, the woman will not conceive. Will not conceive. If she's not a virgin any longer, she could conceive. But if she's a virgin, she will not conceive. Okay? So let's say a woman's a virgin, and you're going to do the act of yibum. You can't have conception from that. Doesn't make a difference. Well, we spoke about asido chalosase. I mean, how do we say asido chalosase in terms of the case we just spoke about? We answer because the woman has no obligation. But what happens if that act doesn't bring about a child? What is the mitzvah pruruvu? Is the mitzvah pruruvu to have the child, or is to do an act which could bring about a child? It's to do an act. I mean, once the conception takes place and the child is born, now you're absolved of the obligation. You have to do an act which can bring about a child. That's the mitzvah. So therefore, you have, until the child would be born, the boy and girl are going to be born, there's an ongoing obligation to engage in the act of procreation to bring about that end result, the male and the female. Once you have the male and female, now you're absolved. You fulfilled your obligation. Therefore, the Gemara says, what happens if, God forbid, one of the children should die in the lifetime of the parent? Again, he becomes obligated again, because it's only an exemption. But if he's alive and one of the children should die, the son or the daughter, with no grandchildren. If the grandchildren, so the grandchildren are considered the equivalent of the children. But if there are no grandchildren, one of them should die, the obligation is reinstated. Because it's only an absolvement of your obligation. But the mitzvah of procreation is the ongoing act of doing an act of procreation. Whether it's conception or not is irrelevant. Okay, that's the mitzvah of pruruvu. Okay? Now, we discussed this in Shabbos. There's a famous Gemara. The Gemara says in Shabbos that Rabbi Yossi says, Pesili, he said many things. He says, I pride myself because I've done this, I've done that, I've done that. He says, I pride myself because anything my colleagues ever asked me to do, I never refused. Even lavos leduchen. Although I'm not a Kohen, but if they would ask me to go and duchen, as the Kohen would duchen, I would even do that. So there's an obvious question. The Gemara says in Ksubis that a non-Kohen duchens, he's in violation of mitzvah saseh, because it's only the Kohen's permitted to duchen, not the non-Kohen. So how could he say anything which his colleagues would ask him to do, he would not refuse even to go up to duchen? How's it possible? And Tosas says over there in Shabbos that Rabbi Yitzchak says, the Re says, the only thing that's difficult to me is did he say a bracha? Because if he said a bracha, it's a question of bracha levatolo. If he's not a kohen, how does he have bracha? So they ask on Tosas, there's a more basic question. Forget about bracha levatolo. What about, he's a violation of the asay that it's only the kohen's permitted to give the bracha, not a non-kohen. So how could he pride himself? And why is Tosas only concerned about the bracha? What about the actual act itself of duchning? Saying Yivarach Hashem Yishmerecha to the tzibur. What? But the Gemara says, it's a Gemara Ksubs explicitly. If a non-Kohen goes up and duchens, he's in violation of mitzvah asay. Okay? So there are a number of answers given. One answer is like this. The asay is in violation of it. It's not duchening. Now, this people have to know. When we duchen, you have to pnei hakonim to pnei atzibur. They have to face one another. What happens if you're in the audience and you turn your back to the kohanim when they're saying Birchus kohanim? You're not a recipient of the bracha. You have to be facing. We have to be facing one another. So the person turns around, you're not. So he says, just as there's a mitzvah, the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, there's a mitzvah that a kohen, whenever he comes upon a tzibur, he has an obligation to bless them. He has an obligation to bless the tzibur. So he says, just as he has an obligation to bless, the tzibur has an obligation to be blessed. To be blessed. Okay? So if that's the case, when it says he's in violation of mitzvah asay, is because by going up to duchen, he's not facing the kohanim. Right? He has an obligation to stand in the audience facing the kohanim. But if he's standing together with the kohanim, what is he doing? He's actually removing himself from his obligation to be blessed. He's not going to be blessed. That's what the Gemara means. So let's say you have a situation where he's the solitary person. There's no other kohanim. So if there's no other kohanim, his colleagues, could you please go up and bless the tzibur? If that's the case, there's no mitzvah for the tzibur to be blessed because they only have an obligation to be blessed if the kohanim giving the blessing. Here you have no kohanim giving the blessing. Therefore, the Rebbe was only concerned. But if you wanted to, did he say a bracha? If he'd say a bracha, maybe a bracha levatola. Okay? So again, it's a similar idea. There's a mitzvah on the kohen to bless. So if there's a mitzvah to bless, that means the tzibur has an obligation to be blessed. Okay? Because the mitzvah cannot be done without a tzibur. That's the way they answer this question on Tosas. No, it has to be the text. No, it has to be the text, what the Torah prescribes. Baruch Hashem Yishmerecha, and it has to be in a certain posture. You know, it's not simple. There's the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah regarding Baal Tosef. If a person sits in the sukkah, let's say in Eretz Yisrael on the 8th day, Shmini Atzeres, and he has in mind that he's sitting in the sukkah to fulfill the mitzvah of sukkah, he's in violation of Baal Tosef. Because Torah says 7 days, not 8 days. The person who stays in the sukkah because he wants shade, to be in a shaded hut, it's not a problem. But if he stays in the sukkah the additional day to fulfill the mitzvah of sukkah, he's in violation of Baal Tosef. Why? Because the 8th day it's not the time to fulfill the mitzvah any longer. It's not the zman mitzvah. So if it's not the zman mitzvah, the only time you're in violation of Baal Tosef, you have to have in mind specifically you want to fulfill it as a mitzvah. What about it's a time of the mitzvah? For instance, a kohen says, rather than giving 3 brachas, he adds a 4th bracha. He adds his own bracha. He adds his own. So Mar says he's in violation of Baal Tosef. It's more Rosh Hashanah. So the Gemara says, why is it any different? Even if he's not mechamin, even if he doesn't have specifically in mind that he's doing it for the sake of the mitzvah. Why? So the Gemara says, because regarding a kohen, since it's whenever he comes upon a tzibur, he has an obligation to bless them. Therefore, he's always within the time of the mitzvah. Sukkot, once the 7 day passes, the mitzvah has no relevance anymore. So unless you have specifically in mind you're doing it for the sake of the mitzvah, only then you're in violation of Baal Tosef. But in regard to the kohen, since it's an ongoing obligation whenever you come upon a tzibur, so therefore when you add the 4th bracha, you will always be in violation of Baal Tosef. Okay, that's the Rosh Hashanah. So the viewer asks a question. There's a minog, we say Yashikoch to the kohanim. Why do we say Yashikoch to the kohanim? Because you want to get an additional bracha. No, that's why. You say Yashikoach because you want the addition, because he says Baruch Tiyah. That's why we say it. Even though shul say, please, don't say Yashkoch till after Kaddish. Because usually it's a problem. People, they're saying Yashkoch in the middle of the Kaddish. So, because you want to get sort of note of your ass, but it's Baltosif. When he says Baruch Tia, that's an additional bracha. So why isn't that Baltosif? So how is he permitted to say Baruch Tia? Right? When we be polite. It's a Torah violation.
Say thank you, say welcome.
So what are you saying, Moshe?
Otherwise, every time we come in, we do a bracha.
No, but it's within the context of what he just finished doing. You know? No. See, that's the note of Yehuda. So note of Yehuda answers that the mitzvah birchas kohanim is only b'haramas yodayim. The kohen has to extend his hands. That's the mitzvah of birchas kohanim. That is his baruch. When he says baruch ti, his hands are lowered. So that if his hands are extended and he adds a fourth bracha, that's baltosif. Of course, it's the posture of the kohen giving a bracha. Verses 3, not 4. But when he says baruch tia, he's not saying it within the context of birchas kohanim. He's a kohen giving a bracha, but it's not the birchas kohanim. Therefore, that's the reason why it's not baltosif.
So a kohen can do bracha any time of the day, all day long.
As long as it's the birchas kohanim.
So that's
Correct. Exactly. If you have somebody who's not qualified with the other kohanim, no. Why should he validate it? The kohen's bracha is a bracha. There's other persons intermingled there saying that it doesn't detract. Because there is explicitly a woman should not wear a man's garment. That's the question. No, that's a lot. No. It's not a lot. It doesn't say that. Here it says, Lo silbash isha simlas gather. A woman is not permitted to wear the garment of a man. That's a negative command. Here it says, the Kohanim should bless. So that's the question. Seemingly it means that the Kohanim should bless. The Kohanim, the inferences, and not, if you're not a Kohen. That was the basis for the question. So that's why he explains. It's not clear exactly what. The Torah says it's a mitzvah. It doesn't say, if you're not a Kohen, you're not permitted to bless. It doesn't say that. So that's the way some answer. It's because you're extricating yourself from being blessed. That's the violation. Others learn, similar also. It's only if you're blessing with a Kohen. If there are other Kohanim blessing, that's when you're in violation. But otherwise, it's nothing. If you're acting as a Kohen with other Kohanim, then it's a problem. You're blessing with Kohanim. What happens? Nobody's blessing. So what he's saying means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. See, it's not called that. He's not acting as a Kohen only if he's among Kohanim. It's a Torah procedure. It's not a rabbinic procedure. Oh, that.
They sit down. There's a specific time and specific place that this was done.
Correct.
And you also know that it is forbidden to speak during the repetition of the Shema.
Okay.
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 So, the unauthorized person gets up and speaks. Maybe violating some image. He was speaking.
Mean the Birchos Kohanim.
Yes, he was speaking during the repetition of the Amidah. Chazal never authorized.
But that's rabbinical. No. I don't mean that. No, but you could have Birchos Kohanim. Let's say there was no Kohen during when we do Birchos Kohanim, and the Kohen comes after davening. You could have Birchos Kohanim after davening. There's nothing wrong with it. The Kohen says, "I would like to bless the tzibur," and there was no Kohen there. It's not a problem. He could say the bracha, doesn't have to be within the Shmon Esrei, and do Birchos Kohanim. No, sir. Rabbi Yossi's not speaking where it's in the middle of davening. Doesn't have to be in the middle of the Shmon Esrei. Maybe he wouldn't have. No, because we're saying now, if it would have been with other Kohanim, according to some, he wouldn't have gone up. No. Then it'll be a problem. Good. Okay. Let me answer something else. Okay. There's certain situations which permit you to speak even in the middle of the Amidah. You're permitted to speak during certain times, during the repetition, not during the silent shmonos, right? When your own personal, but during the Chazar Sashatz, you're permitted to speak, right? We answer, it's interesting. We answer Baruch Hu Baruch Shmo in Slabotka, in Europe. They didn't answer Baruch Hu Baruch Shmo in Slabotka. They held it was a hefsek. Omein is an obligation. Baruch Hu Baruch Shmo is not an obligation to say Baruch Hu Baruch Shmo. So in Slabotka, they did not answer during Chazar Shat. They did not say Baruch Hu Baruch Shmo because it's considered an interruption. Like they say, people during Kiyah Shofar when they blow, people should not say Baruch Hu Baruch Shmo because it's considered a hefsek. So in the middle of Chazar Shat, no less of hefsek. They didn't say Baruch Hu Baruch Shmo, right? But we do say Baruch Hu Baruch Shmo in the middle of Chazar Shat. Why? Because since it's the custom to say it, that becomes an overriding factor. So since he says in his life he never refused anything his colleagues asked him to do, that becomes an overriding factor. Because then he's refusing to do what his colleagues asked him to do. Therefore, saying the Birchas Kohanim would not be a problem. But what about Baruch Levat Tola? That's not so simple. It's interesting. The Ri himself says, there's an argument, a bracha shem yitzricha. Person says a bracha. Person says, the bracha, the Baruch creates, he's not eating the fruit. What did he violate? A rabbinic law or a Torah law? Reviewing a little bit of Shas here. Okay? It's Machlokes Tosas and the Rambam. Okay? Tosas says of Rosh Hashanah, we studied this here, that it's purely, it's rabbinical. We'll see Shem Meshab when you say the name of God in vain, but here, you make a declaration, Hashem Elokeinu Melech Olam Borei creates. He's the creator of the fruit of the tree. It's not saying God name of Hashem in vain. It's within a context. Therefore, Tosas says it's only rabbinical. The Rambam says it was given to Chazal to determine when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate. So Chazal said it's only appropriate when you benefit from the food. Any other time, it's Torah violation. That's the position of Rambam. But Tosas' position is no. That it's not. It's a bracha levat Tola is only rabbinical. So the Ri himself says he questions: did he say a bracha? According to what we're saying, because the only reason why you're not permitted, it's not appropriate rabbinically. But over here, if he never refused his colleagues to duchen, so he questions: did he say the bracha? Because if that's the overriding factor, even rabbinically, it's permitted to say the bracha for that reason. Asher k'shan mitzvah b'tzivanu, to say the bracha of the Kohanim. Same idea. Okay. Let's talk a little bit. Right? Let's talk about a woman. If the woman's not obligated to hear shofar. No. If she hears shofar on Rosh Hashanah, who says the bracha, the tokeya or the woman? The woman says, Asher kisham tzavsivano l'shmo kol shofar. Is she commanded? She just for her, right? She says the bracha. The baltakir should not say the bracha. But how does she say Asher kishanu b'tzivanu? She was never b'tzivanu, right? So your question. The answer is Sivanu is going on Klal Yisrael. We said that's Tosas and Brachos. A woman says Abrischa shesamti b'sareinu. It's a sheker. She's not circumcised. B'sarein means that's the Klal Yisrael. Jewish people are circumcised, so therefore he could say within Birchas Kohanim he could say the bracha Asher, even though he personally is not personally obligated. Doesn't make a difference. Sivanu means Klal Yisrael. That would be bracha. That would be bracha levat Tola. That would be bracha levat Tola. He's asking a question. That's a birchas shevach v'odo. That's something else sheyotza. That's a birchas shevach v'odo. It's like birchas hashachar. Fukei chivrin, malbish arumin. Right? The same thing. That's a sheyotza. Same kind of bracha. Giving thanks, praise to God that you're able to do your bodily functions. That He created you. You're able to relieve yourself. Okay, so that's a separate question that you're asking. It's clear. It's clear. You have a good question. You say brach on your coffee this morning. Okay, we'll talk about it. Okay, wait. We have. What time is it? Summit. Who has a phone?